What up? What's up, guys? Boy Connor coming to you with another video for the van build, the Motovan series. So we went ahead and picked up all the materials today over at Home Depot. We have a build list of everything that we purchased for the subfloor. The main thing that's going to be different on this build versus what a lot of people do with their camper van, since we're doing more of a Motovan and we do have the medium roof, some height with the ability to stand up completely straight. That's one thing that we're not really wanting to sacrifice. So it's gonna be a little bit different. And by that I mean that a lot of people, it's not terribly different, but this is how it is, where a lot of people decide to go with either a 1/2-inch framing and they'll put it on top of the ridges themselves, not on the offset where you say this is the ridge, then you have the valley in between the ridge and then another ridge. I'm not sure if that's what they're called. People will do 1/2 inch on top, so you get about 1 inch, and then they'll do 1 inch insulation, and then their plywood, and then their subfloor, or some people even go with 2-inch framing for their subfloor frame, for the skeleton of their floor. And another reason why a lot of people decide to go with something like that to allow for more insulation is because they are in the colder climates. And I like that we're filming this and saying that when it's supposed to get 20 degrees tonight. So maybe we should do it. It's gonna start getting cold here more frequently in Central Texas. It's about to be, what was that movie, A Day After Tomorrow? Yeah, it's about to be like that here. But that was the reasoning for it, where instead of framing, we're doing foam board insulation, and that is going to be our framing. And we have everything still in the van. We're going to be unloading it and putting it here in the garage. We've already tidied up the garage, that way we have perfect space for all the materials. But overall, the budget, how much did this cost? Connor, be quiet. We want to know how much it cost. Well, initially, we were about $800, $900, but that's not just for the subfloor. We had looked at a couple power drills. We had an impact power drill combo, so that was 2, and we went for the higher voltage, the more compact. When you start making stuff compact, it gets a little more expensive. We also have the jigsaw for the windows that we went ahead and got. That was a little bit, we went with the cordless, so that was a little bit of coin too. And then the jigsaw blades. And the other thing was going to be the Forstner bit. And we're going to be covering why we got the Forstner bits, some of the items that we got, as was explained earlier, and go into a little bit more depth as to our plan. And then the next video is going to be the actual subfloor itself, us tackling it. We ended up not ordering the power drill because we ended up finding this one that we forgot all about, that was in our drawer, because we hardly ever really use this. Connor, you're not man unless you use power drill. I know, dude, I know, we're finally manning up, getting the floor done. But we saved ourselves some money. And thanks to the Home Depot app, we were able to import our receipts, and it told us exactly how much it cost. So we are at $401 for all the materials that we're going to be using for the van. Now that is before taxes. If you are including taxes, you're about $420 roughly, but it's $401 subtotal with all the items that we have. And so we have, what the hell? It goes for all the hardware, the T-nuts, the locking washers, the bolts. We have the plywood, several of those. We have the styrofoam board insulation, and a couple of the other items here. The acetone that we did, we're going to be cleaning that, the caulk gun, and the, what's this? The most expensive portions was the plywood itself. That was $15. We did 4, so that's $60. And then it was the actual laminate flooring that we put on top of vinyl. We ended up going with vinyl instead. We just did the peel and stick. I think that's going to be the easiest. Now, it's not going to be the longest lasting, but we went for ease of application on this, and that was the reason we went with the peel and stick, to where we get out of the box, we lay it out, figure out our floor plan, how we want to set them, and then we just peel and stick them, and then that's it, let them sit for a while. And then we're rocking and rolling. There was a really good video from, I think it's Vanessa and Adam, but they ended up doing a leveling compound, and they did some sort of paste for the subfloor. I'm not sure if we need to do that yet. It says peel and stick. That's it for the list. Now let's go ahead and unpack some of this stuff and get it tucked away, ready for the build. Y'all, it's cold, dude. So first things first is this styrofoam board. This is what's going to be our subframe. Instead of doing your plywood framing, we're going to be cutting this into strips, and we're going to be placing them in the offsets of the van. We'll show you all a little later where we plan on doing those. Whenever we do the subfloor video, we're actually getting onto it. Here we have, it's our Reflectix. This is the 16 by 25 foot. It's about 20 bucks. It's a bit of, it's almost like bubble wrap, but it helps add a little bit of R value. This is actually really cool from being inside the van. This is the spray that we're gonna be using for the foam board. It's just super high strength spray, 3M. We have a caulking gun. we're using for sealant, etc. Acetone, this is what we're gonna be cleaning the van out with. We're gonna brush it and do a wet cloth over it. Here we have a bit of the hardware. These are your T-nuts. We will talk about that when we get the fastener bits and a couple of the other items out of the van. Woo! Got goodies, baby! We have your window sealant that we're gonna be doing on the outside of the plywood. That way we make sure there's no gap for any condensation, etc. to get in and start rotting away the wood. And this is Dynaflex. So we got that because the word Dyna, baby. Dyna lives all, suckers. This was probably overkill, but again, peace of mind, we ended up getting foam board glue, and what we're gonna be doing in that is once we have the foam board on the van, dried out, we're gonna be putting this on top of the foam board, and when we lay the plywood down, it's gonna stick the foam board to the plywood, just extra glue. You don't really need to do that because we're also gonna be drilling and securing the plywood and the foam board from the van. Here's the plywood, here's the van floor. We're sticking a bolt through, drilling it and securing it together. But again, just a little extra peace of mind. We got new bits, baby. This is for drilling into the van. We didn't have the 2 tools that we needed. We said, well, this is only $30. Let's go ahead and get this. So again, this is where the $401 was $401. You could save yourself a little bit of money and just get the 5/16 bolt you use to drill into the van. We'll cover that in the next video. So that you can save yourself about 20 bucks because each one, depending on which drill bit you get, but they're usually about $5 to $10 per bit. This is one of the things that's gonna make the subfloor a little bit easier. We have our builder's paper. This was about $7, I think, for 140 feet of paper. Now, the way we're gonna be using this is we're going to tape the end here at the end of the van, at the very corner, and then we're gonna roll it straight down the middle, all the way to the captain's seats, so that way it goes from rear to front. And then we'll go ahead and cut another piece and we'll outline it with our pencils, so that way we can figure out the layout of the floor. There's a bit that gets cut off by the door for you to step up on, and then the wheel wells, all that, and so that way we can at least have it, and we'll have the plywood laid out on the floor, and then we can lay our diagram of our floor from the paper all taped up together at different seams, so that way we can have the exact diagram of the floor onto the plywood, pencil out on the plywood, and then we can cut as needed. Plywood number 1. Plywood number 2. Oh shit. 3. Last one, number 4. Dude, it's like probably like 40 degrees now. It's supposed to get 27, I think. One of the things that we did not buy today, because we bought it previously, is going to be Rust-Oleum. This is what we're going to be doing inside the van, covering up any rust spots. There aren't any that I remember or can visibly remember seeing since I got the van, but also whenever we do end up drilling the hole for the subfloor to secure it, we're gonna go ahead and spray this around the edges to make sure it's good. We got all the parts downloaded off the van. We got the old plywood here, it's just heavier than some biscuit. So we ended up going with 4, they are 4 by 8 feet. Before we get near ending the video, I wanted to touch base on a couple of the hardware that we got for the mounting system that we're choosing to. We already talked about the foam board installation that we're gonna be using instead of the plywood framing, but that's for the bolts. We got 4 fastener bits. There's no need for 4, so this is another one of those little saving money opportunities for this build. We just wanted to get them all just because we wanted to. So there's that. But this is going to correlate directly with the mounting system, the T-nuts. So here is your little T-nut. Let's see if we can do this. It's got teeth on the inside of it, so that way it's gonna hold itself to the plywood, it's gonna secure in there. The purpose for this is we have van floor, foam board installation, plywood, and so what we're gonna be doing that is we're gonna be using the fastener bit, whichever the appropriate size. You bore out a small little divot inside the plywood, so here's the plywood with the fastener bit, you end up cutting a bit of a well, and then you hammer the T-nut into the plywood, so that way instead of being above the plywood, here is the plywood, here is the T-nut. Instead of sitting up on top, the way you do it is that you hammer it in so it's flush with the plywood, and with the bolt that we're gonna be doing from the bottom, box of bolts, underneath the van floor, it's going to meet the T-nut on top of the plywood, and it's gonna secure it. We ended up going with 1-inch bolts. I think that's going to be perfect with no cutting needed, so that way it's just flush within the T-nut itself. and that way that's secured. The way we're gonna be securing the plywood is, I ended up getting 20 of these, the bolts, this, and the locking nuts, just because I'm not sure how much we need. We are thinking of doing one on each corner of the plywood, and then maybe one along the seam of the plywood, so where they meet, do one in the corner of each plywood and maybe one in the middle, or 1, 2, 3, 4. That may be overkill. That was the reason for our hardware. We have the bolts. We have 5/16, so the bolts that we chose with, 5/16 T-nuts to go with that, 5/16 locking nut. And that's gonna be secured from the van floor. Again, I wanna give a huge shout out to everyone. Thank you for y'all's interest in this project. I'm super excited, and when y'all tell me how excited y'all are to follow along with this, it gets me pumped, dude. Again, be on the lookout for the next video where we actually tackle the subfloor. If you have any questions or something that you're curious about, be sure and drop it down in the comments below so that way we can cover it in a future video, especially regarding the subfloor, because that's the next one. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're there, bump on over and hit that bell notification to be notified of any future videos when they drop, as soon as they drop, baby. Van life, dog. We wildin', dude. Again, thank y'all everybody. I want to give a huge shout out to the new patrons. We have Dan the Fireman jumping on board. He's really interested in this van, so give him a follow. Be sure and give him a shout. Another shout out to Jonathan Cameron for recently becoming a Patreon as well. Thank y'all. I truly appreciate it. And van life, baby.
Since I left, you stood the test of time like a leader. It got too far, and I will always linger. You went away to feel